This conference will now be recorded.
Cottage Grove Plan Commission will hold a public meeting on Wednesday, February 26, 2025 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, 4058 County Road N. You can also join the meeting by GoToMeeting. The meeting was posted at the Town Hall and on the website. We have a quorum present. I'll call the meeting to order. You have the minutes of the December 18th meeting in your packet.
Steve, is he online? Steve, online.
He wasn't feeling well on Monday. I don't know.
There he is. Here he is. You have changes to the minutes from last meeting?
Do I what?
You have any changes to the
Oh,
minutes?
no.
Move approval.
Motion by Muehl to approve minutes for December 18th as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Troy. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Abstentions, motion carried. Next item is public concerns. Public's opportunity to speak to the Plan Commission about any subject that's not a specific agenda item. Is there anyone online?
Nope.
Hearing none, we'll move on. Review of final plat for Kennedy Hills, first edition. Good evening. You have the floor.
I sent an updated plat to Kim yesterday. We got the comments on Friday, so I tried to turn those around as quickly as possible. So the plat should be up to date. We're hoping to have the plans updated for Nick's comments by the end of the week. Pretty minor stuff like fixing some culverts and ditching. Everything else, Corey's been working with his lawyer on getting the covenants taken care of and the developer's agreement. So those that are submitted. And then I think those were the main things. I'm still waiting to hear back from the post office on the mailbox locations because apparently I called and the post office master is on assignment somewhere else for a couple weeks. So I emailed it to him and hoping to hear back at some point. The fire chief signed off on the plat. I need to send them the latest version that we just finished yesterday with just the turnaround change at the end to make sure that that's okay for them for accessibility. I think that those were the main things. Did you guys have any other follow-up questions?
Questions?
So with these current lot sizes,
Mhm.
they'll accept, I'm assuming everything's there for a secondary drain field?
Yeah.
So you've taken care of the private utilities, communication providers, and you're waiting for the post office to
Yes.
get back to you on.
Yeah, we're hoping to use there's that existing cluster to just add on to that since it's right
That
there.
would make sense,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
Yes, so that's my hope.
Nick, have you seen the permit cards from the county?
I don't think I sent those.
Yeah, I don't
to
think
you.
so.
We have the DNR permit and then Corey's taking care of the financial surety with Dane County and then they'll issue that card for us.
I think in my review, I asked for that. Sure, I haven't seen that yet from Dane County, so no.
So it's just taking care of that, the finance side of it, and then we're good to go. They didn't have any comments.
Kim, did you say there was something missing as far as the developer's agreement?
No, I was just saying that this isn't gonna be turned around and at the town board next Monday night. That the 17th is more likely.
Is there a note on the plat for that one tree on Woodland Crossings by Scenic Oak, that the landowner's responsible for that tree?
That is a good question.
And or should there be? 'Cause it looks
Which
like
lot is that?
Yeah, which lot is that?
the line goes right through the tree.
Is that lot 28?
27, 27 and 26.
27.
I know there was a note on the plans, but
Yeah, we have it, I don't think we have it on the plat, just the construction plans to protect it.
So I can comment on that a little bit. So one of the things that's in progress are the covenants in this plat. And one of the issues that the covenants do need to address is tree protection within the plat area. So I don't have a language yet, but my feeling is that people, if they're gonna look at anything, are more likely to look at their protective covenants than this plat. And the plat is supposed to also represent some more permanent things,
Yeah, and trees die after a while.
and trees do die, and so so I wouldn't recommend putting the tree on the plat, but I do recommend covering it in the covenants, and your comment's good, so when we get the covenants circulated, and I think it's a matter of a day or two before we're expecting them, we'll make sure to cover that particular issue in that particular tree.
Do the grading limits, will that impact that tree?
We were trying to stay away from it.
yeah, when I last looked at, I don't have the plans in front of me. I recall it did not.
Yeah, we
Because there
have,
was also areas I mentioned for like the septic drainage fields to not disturb or stage any material in those as well.
So, yeah, we're adding a note for that, and then this probably covers it the best, but the green is like where we're grading, so you can see where we've tried to minimize disturbance.
So, yeah, to my untrained eye, I looked at the grading plan, and the grading seems generally confined to the areas around the roads.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it's okay. The grading seems confined to the areas around the roads, and then it looked to me like you're kind of blending into natural grades as soon as practical as you get away from the roads.
Yeah, we want to minimize disturbance in general.
But as you finalize the engineering plans, that may be something you can, before you send them off, you can just take a peek at.
Yeah.
Is, to the extent that grading can be kept out of the drip line of that. big tree,
Yeah.
That would be great.
As far away as possible.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna be charged for park fees in lieu of park ground?
Not exactly. So the town has two fees, a park land impact fee and a recreation improvement impact fee. And the park land fee, as I looked at the park that has been dedicated, the park that's been dedicated covers the requirements not only for the original plat, but for all these new lots. So they do not have to pay any park land impact fee. In contrast, the recreation improvement impact fee to help the town pay for swing sets and fields and things like that would be due. And I think the plat and the development agreement are all aligned that it'll be up to whoever pulls the building permit on each lot to pay that fee
Okay. So
at time of building permit.
time of the owner of the property.
That's correct. And it'll just be a matter of good record keeping at the town to make sure that,
Yeah, the building inspector sees to that. Just fills it with the fees.
You mentioned something about a hammerhead turnaround. Or not putting,
Yeah, so if you look at the extension of Wooded Ridge Trail on the new version of the plat, there's a concept that I think is still being fleshed out. But the previous version of the plat plans had a full cul-de-sac bulb at the end of that one.
Yeah.
And, especially given how short that end street is, that seemed contradictory to trying to preserve trees in that same area, because that bulb is not a permanent thing either. Once the street extends north, then the bulb goes away and you will have removed trees unnecessarily. So I think the goal is to try to come up with something that, walks the tightrope between providing emergency access, reasonable emergency access, and, trying to minimize unnecessary tree loss in that area.
And it's for only 4 lots.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. As Mark stated, it is a very small area, and that's what we currently have out there for Scenic Oak Drive too, for 2 or 3 lots as well. So if you drive out there before development, you'll see a cul-de-sac on one end, a temporary cul-de-sac on one end, and a temporary hammerhead right actually by those mailboxes. It's a temporary hammerhead out there right now.
Mark, in the covenants that you're working on, are you going to have some language in there for your 5B for lots 22 through 26, 35, and 36 about limiting tree removal?
Yeah, yes, that's part of what's being worked on. I haven't seen the language yet, but I'm sure I'll get a chance to review and comment on that. But, your point is a good one, that we need to talk about that, large tree that's, somewhere in the neighborhood of the boundary between 26 and 27.
And will there be then something also for exterior lighting has to be dark sky compliant?
Yeah, again, the devil's in the details. I'll look at that in terms of what it means. But, typically for residential houses, it either sets a lumen limit, so to speak.
Yeah.
And if you're above that, then it definitely has to be, downcast. But if you're below that, then, you sort of
It's
can let it
okay.
rip, right?
Now, thanks for bringing that up. Is it a per fixture lumen or is it a total?
Yeah, good question. It's usually easier to regulate to per fixture because you can, look at a seal or a label to tell if it meets it rather than having, kind of a lighting study to.
Because I have seen some homes where obviously the dark sky compliant are older homes and stuff. And good night. I mean, there's just so many lights, even though they may be individually, by the time you get, I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, 20 of them across the front of the house, it's like you're looking down the first baseline at County Stadium,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
That's a good
And-
comment, Steve. I mean, I don't think you're talking about like those little solar things that sometimes
right.
light paths.
Yeah.
So we can't just say you can only have 4 lights because that would be a little silly, but maybe we can, as I'm thinking about, come up with a total number of lights above a certain lumens level that, would be reasonable. You
Yeah.
wouldn't be, saying it wouldn't be 2, but it wouldn't be 25 either.
No, something about so many lumens per linear.
Maybe, yeah, good thinking. I'm, this is a good conversation because I haven't, fully thought it through, but oftentimes it's less about the quantity of lights than the brightness of the lights that are there, but the quantity can certainly matter.
Yeah.
Especially now with those newer LEDs, they're super bright.
Yeah, yeah,
Especially on the side light for the garages. I've noticed that on several houses. I'm affected by one now.
yeah,
Right across my field.
yeah. And there's something about the
It's
sort of the
unbelievable.
daylight,
Yeah.
the daylight kind of brightness of those lights are different, than lights were in the past.
And you've removed the building setback lines from the
Yep,
plan?
yep, those should be gone. We've added the drainage easements to the plat in the front yards to those swales.
Good idea.
Yes, it seems like they've addressed our plat comments.
And Nick, are you satisfied with the stormwater drainage easement of 6 foot labeled on the frontage with the right of way for what extends into adjacent lots?
Yeah, that's within the setback requirements and just to give a little extra protection, especially 20 years down the road when those ditches have to be cleaned out and sometimes you scrape along the side of it just so the town's protected from that maintenance perspective as well. And then there was 1 or 2 spots that those slopes went a little bit in there. So yeah, I'm fine with that 6 feet.
And you're finalizing the hammerhead.
Yeah, we haven't seen the plans yet. We're gonna get those, so, but I'm not opposed to that hammerhead on that side. I
Yeah,
did mention to have a conversation with the fire and EMS. I would think they would be fine with it because it is roughly 4 potential houses or lots, you could say, that the fire and EMS would need to potentially serve or back up for a small distance for temporary until the final phase is constructed.
and did lot 30 lines that overlap the path easement get corrected?
Yep, yeah, they took out, that was if the setbacks were kept in there, because Mark and I had some discussions, but yeah, that's perfectly fine with me for that 20-foot path easement shown there in the final plat now.
And I assume they were okay with that small swale to be constructed along phase 2 and 1 limits to protect that gravel pathway.
I believe so. I just noticed that going through from the plans that it was kind of flat there, and I didn't want that, the watershed, once the houses are built, if it runs a little faster to wash out
Yeah,
that gravel path.
existing path was put in really flat, so
Yeah.
we're gonna put a swale just in front of it so it can get the water before it crosses. I was looking at it this morning and I think the west side of that north-south pass we're gonna put in on this phase, I don't think we'll need it in that stretch. It's much better grades in there, so we were gonna consider just doing it the rest of the way, if that makes sense.
I see what you're talking about.
Yeah, 'cause otherwise it starts to bring the grade up too much.
I believe that'll be fine. Once I see the plans, I'll be able to
Okay.
have a final comment. If there is any concern, I can bring that back up. But once I get those final plans, because our review letter was sent out last Friday, so we're working on it.
Yeah.
I believe it'll be addressed. We can make it definitely contingent on my approval of all comments being addressed on my review letter.
I think that's in the resolution.
Yeah, it is actually.
Any other questions from anyone?
There was talk before about I know this is not with the plat, but maybe at least gets covered with developers agreement about the construction entrance to the north, going up to Kennedy. Somewhere along the line that this, I know it's not for the plat approval, but just so it gets kind of in the wording for the developers agreement or whatever needs to be done, so I kind of forgotten it. I think we discussed all that at one time.
Yeah, the temporary construction act.
Can I just put another entrance in and gravel it? Leave that for construction road?
Yeah, going to the north and out down to
Yeah.
Kennedy, north of the
It
two
won't
houses
be paved
there.
or nothing, but it'll be just gonna be permanent someday, so doesn't pay to put a temporary road in, go through all the motions and.
You mean if it would follow the road network in the future phase?
I'm not opposed to that. I am visualizing Kenworth that I believe is flat enough that the site distance shouldn't be a conflict. That's the only thing I would comment in the future if it had to be
Mhm.
addressed or modified, even though we showed what that outlot one's gonna look like. That's the only thing I can think of if it's a site distance conflict where it's gonna potentially go. So I don't know.
Well, it would be where the future road, the next entrance.
Yeah, that's where that future road, even though it may, what the future expansion shows where it should be, if the site distance where a vehicle wants to pull out for a left or right turn, if they can't see so far due to the speed limits, then we would have to relocate or modify that.
We can check that. I think the grades will work out, but.
Remember, it's flat enough and you can see far enough, but that's the only thing that would stick out that may shift or modify that.
Vegetation, but no vegetation at that corner that where you want to put it, that would affect it.
Well, I think there's some trees that are out there,
What was that?
sides of the road.
Vegetation at that corner. Oh,
Yeah. There
Well,
are.
it's right where the
they heard.
old farm buildings are.
No farm. Yeah, right. That's my point was gonna be.
Yeah. That close to the road.
Yeah, so it's fine. If it's creating a sight distance problem, they're fine.
Would you want to see that?
Would you, when you did that temp road, or I should say, the future road, would you actually do the engineering for all the grade for the?
Well, that's what I'm kind of thinking, and just gravel it and do the ditches and
Yeah.
just not pave it.
Yeah, we could show it on these plans and then just, if you want to do some quick sight distance. And then if that confirms, then I won't have a concern. So then we're not bringing it up in the future and then the waste of time and energy and relocating
Just
it.
get it done, yeah.
I'd like to see that, that'd be good.
But that, there could certainly be a line or two in the development agreement that, you know,
Yeah.
basically requires use of that for construction as opposed to going down through the existing neighborhood.
Right.
In addition to putting them on the plans, which is important.
Questions, comments?
Not here.
Ready to move on? Number 6, consider adoption of Plan Commission Resolution 2025-2-26, recommending conditional approval of the final plat of Kennedy Hills First Edition. We can do this tonight. The town's not going to act on it until after we get the developer's agreement
Covenants or-
and the covenants all done so that we can see those in black and white. Which will probably be the 17th of March.
Mhm.
And that's just the town board.
If you pass this.
Yes.
So is,
Conditions based on discussions and that we need to add to this?
I don't believe so, because there's already a provision that says that the development agreement needs to be, you know, completed. And I think there's provisions that say this engineering plans need to be approved by Nick.
Yeah, typically that's in the development agreement.
Yeah, well, that's definitely true. I don't know that. And the covenants are certainly covered in the resolution. So I don't believe there needs to be anything added, Kim. And the fact that, you know, we've got a recommendation that's going to be followed up by town board action in another 3 weeks means that,
yeah,
I want to say what you're doing doesn't matter, because it does.
right.
But we can make sure that all the things are taken care of before the, you know, the official resolution of the town board, based on your direction tonight.
Okay.
So no notes about the additional construction road.
They're all gonna be covered in the development agreement. or-
Yeah.
That's not for the plat.
That the
Right.
town board will
It's
see.
for the covenants,
Right.
so it's
Okay.
We'll have that on 17th for the town to approve,
Okay. So you just have to make sure that they.
part of the developer's agreement, yeah.
You just have to make it into it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to, you see H, you could add a H5 if you wanted to just, you know, the final plat and associated engineering plans shall be revisited to provide a temporary construction access to the north. We're concerned about that.
Yeah, I
Making
mean,
the cut.
what we talked about tonight, as long as it makes it to town board, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, if you're concerned about it getting lost in the shuffle, you could add a number, Roman numeral 5 there under H.
Under age, yeah.
And we have to give them a driveway permit.
That is
Anyway.
correct. So there's
Okay.
a,
So
There's
that
some-
covers it.
there's a couple backstops we have
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
I'll add that then. Provide a temporary construction access to the north.
Okay, and there's nothing else as far as lighting, there's nothing to do with that.
He's gonna get that in the covenant.
That's already covered in the list of items that need to be in the covenants.
D3.
Here in, exterior lighting for the, okay.
Anyone willing to make a motion?
I'll move that we approve, excuse me. Pardon me, we make a motion that we approve the Plan Commission Resolution 25-02-26 as presented with the additional Roman numerals under letter D. H, sorry. Yeah, sorry. And that, I mean, all of the information that we've discussed, that Kim has written, that Mark has written, I mean, we could have a, with 10-page motion, you know, so, I'll let it go with that.
Motion by Anders, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mark to approve Plan Commission Resolution 2025-2-26, recommending conditional approval of a final plat of Kennedy Hills First Edition with the addition to H on page 2 of number 5. And what else? And the various other comments that we had for the developers agreement. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Get it done. We'll see you on the 17th at the town board, 7 o'clock.
So I have a name.
Huh? Oh, we had one abstention. That's right, because you sold.
Yeah, good.
All right. Moving on, Don Vinnie petitioner, Vinnie Acres LLC, property owners, parcels 0711-331-800-7 and 9502-8. North Star Road petition for comprehensive development plan review for a commercial subdivision. Good evening. You have the floor.
I've been talking with Kim lately and I think we want to make a few changes to some of these lot sizes as of, I think you suggested that. And, you know, it makes more sense if a couple of these are a little bigger.
Yeah.
And because Mark suggested it, and I just got thinking about it, you know, we've been talking with people and I think having a better selection of lot size is a big deal. I think,
More variable. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I just kind of want you guys' feeling right now on this, and then, because this is nothing set in stone here, that's for sure right now. I wanna change a few things, and I got a couple other questions too, but the lot size thing is probably the first thing. Mark can probably
Yeah, I can.
expand on that a little more.
Yeah, I was, you know, you see a fair number of roads in this development. And those roads would be important if each of these lots is two, if you have this many lots that are 2 acres in size. But, what Don's referring to is it's possible, for the sake of argument here, that you might find one user that wants all of the land encompassed by, let's just say lots 5 through 9. And if that would be the case, then he doesn't have to build that future town road at all. So,
Right.
I think the road that's, I think very important to the town and that we've come to is the one that goes all the way from the east end of the development to the west end of the development, because that,
Right.
cross our fingers, is the future Natvig Road, connection, and probably should be named Natvig Road. Well, I'll hedge that a little bit. We can come back to that. But in any case, the other 2 cul-de-sac roads, may be beneficial and important and may not be necessary depending on, how big of a industrial or business users Don can attract.
The lot, I believe it's lot, maybe Nick knows a little better, but, I think it's lot 5 is that one, we've checked it as far as perking, and that one, it's an issue. So that was one of the reasons why probably 3 of those lots will end up being 2 on that side right now.
So like 4, 5, and 6 you're
Yeah,
talking?
I'm not exactly
No,
sure
no,
which
but
one, but I
that
mean,
part of the
you
development.
understand what I'm saying? We're gonna make this 2,
Make them bigger,
because, yeah,
so you
because
get
of
a
the-
septic system.
right, the 2 on the edges, they're fine for perks, but the one in the middle, and I can't remember which one it is. I think it's 5. I'm not sure.
It is 5 in the middle.
That's what I thought too.
The other question I have is, I think Mark just kind of hit it there too, is could we have on the east part of the waterway along North Side Road, is it all right to have maybe 2 or 3 lots there or 4 lots there with their own access to North Side Road? Or maybe we split it and we have 2 accesses there. I'm not exactly sure. I have a problem with, and that's why with Mark's comment on, say, lot 13 and 14 and 15. I think I don't like 14. It's kind of goofy. And and maybe 16 also, maybe we need to relook at those 4 lots. That's why I guess what I'm asking is, what do you guys think along there? Can we have more than 1 access along North Side Road, or?
2.
For a road?
Yeah, well, no, I mean,
Driveway.
just driveway entrances to North Star Road.
Instead of the town road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
You'd be only-
Yeah, I mean, this concept is set up for 2 access points, right? The future town road and lot 11 would need its own access the way things are laid out. The question is, how many is too many? In general, we want to try to limit access to.
okay, yeah, that's why
Yeah,
because we know lot 11 has to have its own entrance
Right.
right now off North Side Road, so.
and I think there might be a minimum distance,
Typically for each intersection, you have
Yeah,
like 150.
150 feet.
I think the town's ordinances.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So do you have an idea how many driveways you could have out to North Star Road? That's one question as individual. Or
Yeah,
can
well,
you
if you
bring
look-
a couple side by side that are within, I don't know how many feet they'd have to be apart. You're gonna have some waterway in there. But bring them close together so that it kind of helps with the incoming traffic.
Like a shared driveway?
Similar to a shared driveway, but they have their own driveways. They're just really close together.
I would say, I'm treading into Nick's territory. You either want to put the driveways very far away from each other or share them.
Right.
To have 2 driveways that are close to each other, then you get left turning conflicts kind of all over the
Fusion, who
place.
goes
Yeah,
first?
It'd be a problem to have them shared then.
shared is, no.
Okay.
shared might be a very good option if you have, let's just say 4 lots, along North Star, to have 2 of them share one and 2 of them share another.
Yeah, then you're eliminating the amount there, especially what you're looking at for what the future of that roadway is to eventually potentially keep making its way to the north, which may be 10 years from now or 20 years from now or longer or shorter than that, that you're making it a through road instead of a dead end, which then you're increasing the amount of traffic and then safety involved and so forth. So it's looking a little at the crystal ball as well from that perspective and what the vision is, which Mark has done that for what the town would like to envision out there in that vicinity as well.
Okay. The challenge, so yeah, I mean, I don't know what the magic number is, but if, I think minimally you'd want to keep the driveway spaced 150 feet apart from one another. We'd also want to think about what's happening or could happen on the other side of the street so that you can maybe line driveways up right with each other. So those are probably 2, important things. The other thing I would say is that if all we were dealing with was, like 300, 400 feet of depth from North Star Road to the east, then I'd say, line up North Star Road with lots and that's fine. But in reality, especially as you get closer to 51, your most valuable lots probably, you got, I'd say close to 1,000 feet in depth between North Star Road and the drainage way. And so the public road there might be a good idea because it will get you to those higher value lots, 15 and 16, that have the visibility from the highway that you're going to be able to get a higher price for. So it's a kind of a balancing act. You'd have to invest some money up front for a public road so that's the challenge. But the benefit is that you get back to those lots that on a per square foot basis should be able to yield you a better price.
So basically, I guess what you're saying, Mark, is what we have here, you don't want to deviate a whole lot from it.
Well, I didn't have a particular, I mean, your idea of lot 14 being kind of goofy and maybe figuring out a better solution for that, maybe combining with 13, whatever. I think that makes some sense, Don. But
Or could it be as simple as taking that cul-de-sac and spinning it the other way? So more of that bulb goes into 16 and 17?
yeah, and it may not need to be that
Yeah,
long.
what's the size on 14?
That's true. It may not even need to be that long. The cul-de-sac bulb could get closer to North Star Road.
Yeah. Can that bulb or that future road there, can that be shortened? Or is there a specific?
That's what it was just saying.
Well, I mean, shortening it way up so that lot 16, 15 maybe combine those, push it way back into here.
You could.
That's a thought.
Yeah.
That I'm having, but my question is there any length that a road should be? I mean, is there any minimum?
You mean like Highway 30?
Yeah.
Actually, you've got to have at least 66 feet, on there, of width onto a road.
Yeah, we don't have a minimum cul-de-sac length. We, I think we do or should have a maximum.
That's, I was gonna say, once you get too far and too long of a cul-de-sac, then it's a different story. Because now you're really limiting the traffic and accessibility. If there's somehow an accident and then someone's having a heart attack, now you're limiting how you're gonna get there because now you have the super long cul-de-sac. So definitely from a maximum perspective, we look at that regularly and we have those conversations or recommend EMS and fire chiming
So you
in.
can have
once it gets
alternative
longer.
routes if you need it.
What was that?
So you can have alternative routes if you need it.
Yes.
These aren't too long, either of them is,
No.
yeah.
What is the paved area of the cul-de-sac? You may know.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly.
You usually want the right of way to be 120 and the pavement varies anywhere from 90 to 96, somewhere right in that. Each municipality varies a little bit, but it's around there. You could say 95 pavement width. It just gives you a ballpark. And I believe the town might have their ordinance on that where it's somewhere in that range. So.
Yeah, I think it is written in the subdivision.
Say 90 is
I want to say 90.
Yep.
Yeah, it's right around because then you need a full fire truck to turn around, a garbage truck. a
Semi two to turn around.
Yeah, and you'll probably have those on this.
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely take more than like the street we did up here, so.
Hey,
Right.
Mark, can I go back to one comment you made?
Yeah.
You're talking about 15 and 16, to Highway 12 and 18. You're talking about the value of those because of visibility.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good. You want to preserve that as much as you can because that's going to be huge.
right.
Those two.
Yeah, you,
Well, what my thought here the last couple of days was if we took 11 and 12 and stretched them a little more to the west, and that would shrink 13 a little bit, and then we'd add 13 and 14, the remainder together.
Yeah.
Something like that.
yeah, that's,
Certainly.
Makes some sense. And then you guys are saying you kind of want to leave the 15 through 18 right now? That's what you're thinking?
Well, for you.
Yeah.
For
Well, I
you,
mean, I know you guys got to prove this, so that's why I'm asking.
I would
You
think
want
for
the
you.
visibility from 12 and 18, I would think.
Yeah, your per square foot price is going to be the best on those 4 lots.
And that doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter whether there's 4 lots there or 2 lots. It's just gonna be in a marketability.
Yeah.
So you could actually divide those up into 3 lots if you wanted.
yeah, and taking off of your comment, Troy, as try as we might to get it perfectly right, we're not gonna be able to.
Right.
And
No.
someone's gonna want part of lot 17 and half of lot 16,
Market forces will dictate.
and that's
things.
okay. Because you can just do another certified survey map over just that little piece of the plat, and it happens all the
Change
time.
it.
Yeah.
We're looking at the crystal ball that it's a little unknown in the future what exact development, and exact square foot that development needs. And, you know, the density of individuals too determines how many toilets they have there, determines how big your drainage field is, which may, now you need a little bit more space because of that. So, yeah.
It is.
I wondered if they moved it back to this, square this up here.
Yeah,
tie that right in.
Always that devil's advocate of how much infrastructure the township has to put
It's
in.
kind of weird, it's
At
nice,
some point,
nice sized lot.
It's gonna get turned
That's
over
what
to
squared
us.
up.
We have
Yeah.
to maintain it, we have to plow it, you know, unless we have to do that.
Replace the pavement in 20 years or.
Yep. Yeah, but it's a calculation, it's a cost benefit, because, you know, the more lots you can get, the better lots you can get, the more tax base you get, the more funding source you have to maintain the roads. So, if all we were to do was to line, you know, North Star Road with development and call it done, we would get a lot less value out of this area than if we build a road network to get deeper into these sites.
So when they come up and they do the evaluation on the land, somebody buys it, they put a building up, there's gonna be the improvement and there's gonna be the land.
Yeah.
So the less land, you're saying it's a higher price per square foot, or is it?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, you know, what's the acreage of this total acreage, Don?
On the whole thing,
Yeah.
it's not quite 60, it's like 58 or something.
So we're gonna be able to, minus the stormwater areas, we're gonna be, with roads, you're gonna be able to develop all the 60 acres. But if you didn't have roads, you know, some of it would be so deep that you wouldn't have, you know, reasonable access to it. Couldn't get there.
You'd have what they've already changed now over at the old Datex Omeda, Ohio Medical over there.
Right.
So,
But, you know, getting back to the initial comment, you know, if someone can take 10 acres and, you know, we're seeing some industrial users taking well over 10 acres.
Yeah.
You know, if someone can take 10 acres and you don't have to build one of the cul-de-sacs, especially in my opinion, that northern one, then great. Then you don't have, the town doesn't have to maintain a road and Don doesn't have to build the road.
Right.
okay.
Can I ask a question? On lots 4, 5, 6, on 7, the perk tests were that existing ground. How much that do you think you're gonna level out? Because you got a 25-foot drop in lot 6 alone.
Yeah, we've actually been talking with Wade a little bit on that, and I know Nick knows too. And I think we're dropping it. What was the level for all that?
Well, where we meet up is elevation 908. Where our properties meet.
which that minimizes the grading for Don, so it doesn't interfere with septic areas, and it'll match ours fine. It's kind of what we had originally planned out anyhow. So down here we'd come in here to 908. That's kind of a grade we're locked to, so you don't have to do too much grading.
Yeah.
For septic areas.
Great.
But wouldn't lot 6 and alone or 7 have quite a bit of grading probably? Or- I mean,
Would
I
it
think
be,
those are the ones that didn't, aren't they? That didn't perk?
I can't
there,
remember.
see,
what-
there's a little woods in
Oh,
there, and actually, just one comment on that little woods, is there's not a good tree in the whole thing. So, I mean, literally, Chris knows they planted trees in there in like 1970 something, and the pine trees are all dying, and it's full of mulberry and box elder. There isn't one good tree.
No.
So it's a shame, but anyhow.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
Anyhow,
Usually the tree hugger.
it's kind of good because it definitely needs to come out of there and make it work for Wade and so. But
Maybe Wade can answer this. If you have to move a lot of earth, do you have to retest it to put a septic in?
That's why you don't want to move.
Yeah.
You gotta keep it natural.
what, if I'm correct to say this, Wade and Nick probably know, is where the septics go, you cannot touch the soil, right?
Correct.
Right?
You don't wanna drive on it, you can't excavate it, fill it, nothing.
It's grass.
Yeah.
So
It's gotta be left the way it is right now. You have to work around it.
what do you-
Just like you did up here
Yeah.
at your subdivision.
So what do you envision for like 6 and 7? Unless you want to build into the hillside.
No, when he, like Wade was telling you, when the grade goes down,
Our grade's gonna come down significantly up there.
there was room. I know Brian Arcand out of Snyder and McFarland, they're the engineers, and worked along with Chris Kaysen at Berencott, and there's room for the septics on 2 of those 3 lots. That's why we wanted to combine
Okay.
one of them. And like I say, this could change yet, so.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Right. The one thing I would say is, we might as well call the North Road there, we might as well put a name of Natvig on it. That's what you're planning.
We'd like it to wind around and connect at N.
Yeah, so it's gonna be Natvig, right?
Does that depend on what happens on Houston's
Yeah, I mean,
property?
I would assume it'd be Nadvik, because it cuts all the way through.
Yeah, I mean, if there's
One
cooperation and general agreement on
That's
making
fine.
that connection, I think it makes sense. I don't know if you've ever tried to stay on Regent Street on the west side of Madison. You know, that's where it didn't, didn't end up making sense, so.
Make it look like we did it on purpose.
But I think if you got the property owners generally on board with this concept, then I think that's good, and you should feel confident in
And
naming it.
that location works out for you extending it around the end?
Yeah, I know one time was talked about being farther to the north on the property line.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter, we can make it work either way.
okay. Don, outlot 1 and 2, do you foresee there being some stormwater facility actually there?
No, he's got it, oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Outlot 1 and 2, yes.
Yeah.
There'll be, I mean, these guys probably answer that question better than me. What, is it, there'll be a couple ponds on both of them, right? 2 ponds or 1?
I think too.
Yeah, typically you have the 2 on each, unless for some reason you get some sort of exemptions for infiltration due to groundwater levels or something along those lines. But typically, yeah, you have 2 on each one. A wet pond and a dry pond, for dry being the infiltration pond.
And so we would want all of those lots that feed into that to be aware of maintenance in the future?
Well, this is a question of public versus private again, just
Yeah.
like we dealt with up in
Swallow
Swalheims.
Yeah,
That's what I was, yeah, if you keep the same.
So if we're consistent with that, those will be public basins. They'll have to be built by Don maintained by Don for a few years to get them established, and then turned over to the town.
Deed restriction for all.
With it, yeah. with it-
Deed
and
restriction.
Special assess all of the.
Yeah,
Where the deed restricted special assess all of that.
to be able to pay for the maintenance later on.
That's what I recall.
Yep, that's right.
Because then the town, being public, can make sure that they're maintained 20, 30 years down the road whenever they need to be, silt needs to be cleaned out or whatever.
They serve multiple lots, you know, for people that are running their businesses, not in the business of maintaining stormwater basins.
Okay.
And they also serve public roads. They're providing the stormwater for public roads. So
Any of the people that have lands around our area in this development will not be charged any amounts.
They will.
no, they would.
It
They
would?
would.
Okay.
But it would be the town that would do it, just like Nick said, and then charge back those costs to the owners.
So, you know, so basically the town's gonna put them in, town will monitor them.
Don will be putting them in.
Right.
Town will be, you could say, managing it, doing the management of it and setting things up. But then all it costs is all those lots that'll be feeding to it.
Okay.
But it's not like maintaining a town road. To maintain a basin,
Yeah.
is it either? I mean, if they work, they typically work for a while.
Yeah, it's not like you have
Yeah.
to go out there every year like you're plowing or, no. Once you get you can do a drive-by observation. Once you start seeing, especially for the wet ponds, start seeing some cattails come in the center of it, that's usually a good indication. Or there has been municipalities that wait till it's frozen, drill an auger hole, and then determine the depth too. And they don't do that after year one, because right when it's done, he has to supply an as-built record drawing saying these are the actual bottoms of the depths, they're properly constructed, and then it takes time for those to silt in unless for some reason a developer has a massive rain event while they have a huge stockpile and it blows out all your erosion control and makes it in there. Then it's a different story. But typically, if everything's properly controlled after those get turned over to the town and those all these lots get developed, it could 10, 20 years you're looking at before you have to actually start the first typical maintenance of excavating that silt out. You know, the organic matter that broke down or something that happened to get in the ditch by a vehicle driving by, lost some soil from a dump truck.
So what then does, as far as the mowing around those, what did we do down here?
That's one of the next questions. As you go west from the outlots, we want to make someone responsible for mowing along that ditch.
The waterway there. The main waterway down through
That-
the middle.
Yeah,
I've been mowing it every,
I know.
but I mean, yeah, you're saying,
It's gotta be
In the
formalized.
future,
yeah,
the landowner should
so
maintain that.
I would say, couldn't we put it on, being most of it is where there's lots, couldn't we put it on the lot owners to have them responsible to the,
I would think
to
so.
the, I don't know, I mean, you,
I don't know how that works.
I got
I
problems.
know, yeah, I know.
Okay, so you're gonna have lot 6 responsible for his, lot 8 responsible for his? No. We have one overseer of the whole thing. They contract out for the maintenance on it and charge it back.
And that entity could be the town.
Do it or else the town doesn't bill it back.
Well, I
could
don't
be
want
the
the town
same.
to do it either,
No,
because
I
we
think,
don't.
No,
I
no,
think
town
that,
would hire it
yeah,
out.
like I said in the past, I think anytime that there's any of these things that the town is gonna do, the town needs to hire it out so that there's a bill for it and not just, time of our guys.
Yes, right.
That there's an actual bill and we have an actual amount that we know we have to split up among all those
They moved
responsible.
it 3 times during the summer of 2035 or whatever, and this is your portion.
Yeah, not that our crew would be doing it.
No.
It would be contracted.
We would contract with someone.
Yeah.
And then you would charge it back on the lots, is what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah,
Then then they're somewhat responsible, but they're not if they don't do it. So, or I mean, they are if they don't do it. If they do, like up here, I think those people mow, you guys never mow anything up there, right?
Wow. That's a long story, yeah.
Oh.
What's
They,
that?
I thought they mowed around there. They don't?
They had an agreement, we had an agreement with them for a while that the town would do it, but the town ended that agreement and now they're responsible.
They're gonna hire, they'll have to hire somebody to mow.
Yeah.
I thought the one guy, the guy next to it was mowing it. That's not true then, huh?
The town mowed it through last season
Yeah,
under an agreement and we billed the HOA. But that, and the same thing was true at Kennedy Hills. The same thing was true through the end of the year, but next year going forward, they need to do it themselves. The HOA will be responsible.
Yeah, there's definitely separate systems going on, so don't get me wrong. There's stormwater basins that serve this, and then there's a conveyance that takes the water through. But for me, if the town's gonna take care of it from a plating standpoint, there's nothing to say that that can just be one big outlot. For stormwater management purposes, what you see is 1, 2, and 3 are just one outlot.
yeah. Are you planning on leaving the bridge?
No,
Wondering that.
no. You want it left there?
No.
Oh, I mean,
My
that's a
fire
matter of
department already
grabbing
has
hold
a
and
problem
pulling it out
with
of
it.
there. Yeah.
They don't know if it would support the vehicle that they would try to drive.
It actually is supposed to hold 80,000 pounds. I don't know if I'd want to be that 80,000 pounds.
That's their question.
Yeah,
And,
no, it's gotta come out.
okay.
Go around.
Those were my only questions. Nick, do you have anything?
Just to chime on what Mark said, we're outlaw 3 that may become slightly bigger too because of your conveyance, how to get it to your stormwater management system on each side. So you have to add another set of ditches on the bottom, and then you're cutting into some of those lots, and that might change the configuration too, especially once you get into more of the whole design and grading perspective. But that'll be, we'll look at that later on, because let's say if outlot 8 stays where it is, well, that water needs to make it to outlot 1 somehow. And that'll take some
That's where they've
grading.
done all the grading right now.
Yeah, they do. So
Yeah.
then it may work out.
Same with, like on the south side, they've got it set, so it all
So it
goes.
all makes sense.
Yeah.
Right?
And
And that's
that's staying out of that 75 foot.
okay. Yeah, and that's where you're just they'll have to have some sort of ditches to convey that slightly from a grading perspective, and that's where we're talking about making a lot maybe slightly wider, or that would be just a drainage easement in those lots too. So that's something we'll get into the nitty gritty once we see the plans.
And the size of the outlots and the configuration is gonna be driven by the stormwater planning and the calculations that come, after today.
One other minor thing would just be North Star is a 66-foot right away. I know there was looking at expand 70, so to make it even, it would be 2 feet on Don's side, and whenever the east side of the roadway on North Star gets reconstructed, they would dedicate 2 feet as well, just to have more right away as well. For that discussion or perspective, just for what North Star will become if you get more of a bike path associated with it and so forth.
This could be, the right of way could be dedicated now, but North Star stays as it is for 20 years. But you only have sort of one chance to get the right of way easily, at least, and the plat is the good time to get it.
So you want 2 more feet
2
along
more
North
feet.
Star Road?
Yeah.
Okay. That's no problem.
What were your comments on the general commercial, heavy commercial?
Yeah, given the visibility of this area, the general commercial is more restrictive. There's more uses that are conditional. You have to get a conditional use permit for any outdoor storage, for instance. And I would recommend general commercial zoning for this whole plat as a result. I provided a hedge. I said, well, if there's a need to compromise, I wouldn't compromise on the southern lots because that's your gateway into the development. That'll set the tone for not only the rest of the lots in Don's plat, but everything else to the north.
Yeah.
So, some of the deeper lots maybe could have the HC zoning, lot 9, lot 5, 5, 6, or however that gets merged. But I wouldn't recommend that for lots 15 through 18 in the extreme.
So basically, everything north of the waterway could be HC.
Yeah, that's part of the negotiation, I think, but yeah. And then it would be a question of kind of a process that basically the town and you go through the list of HC land uses and identify which of those you really want to market to and which of those you're happy to let go because they're, too intense or whatever.
No slaughterhouses.
Yeah.
That's what it all boils down to, doesn't it, is marketing? I mean, you can zone it and
So
kill off all your marketing, there's a lot of businesses that love to be here, probably to have outside storage, and you're gonna shut them all down with
Yeah,
AC.
it just depends on the balancing act. There's a lot of other businesses that want to have a reasonably attractive,
Yeah,
park. So
well, yeah, I don't want to slum either, but, there's a huge market out there of small businesses that need outside storage to a minimum, and they can't get it.
yeah, and I think we're all in agreement that those types of uses would be better on the north and then along 50 or along 1280.
But then some companies, they like to have their stuff outside so they can show it off.
Well, display is
See what you have,
Tom,
what you do.
Tom, display is a different thing than storage. Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I mean, I work in DeForest and there's a ton of those, selling every, contraption on earth, construction and ag, and they like to have some of their equipment out because they're leasing it or selling it. But that's different than, storing,
Old forms
product.
and.
Right.
What's our sign ordinance for, because I think those buildings are gonna wanna have signs on them.
Yeah, it's the county has sign regulations. I don't know them off the top of my head.
Now, with your comment about HC and the dreaded word CUPs,
Turns.
with the town not being in charge of its own destiny
State
anymore,
owned.
with regards to having any definitive authority over CUPs, the last thing I want to do is to have to get in the fight with the ZLR, with regards to, we say no to a CUP here for whatever.
Yeah.
And then they go to the county and the county decides that, that's okay. The heck with the town. And so I guess, how do we go ahead and balance? Because the thing, I don't want this thing to become full of CUPs,
Yeah.
And I would rather have whoever wants to move here, move in under what we've all decided would be good for the town and generally good for a potential property buyer, rather than having to resort to CUP just to get them in, to get them a foot in the door. And if, I'm not against HC, don't get me wrong there, but we need to figure out a way to not have to have people applying for CUPs left and right.
You have some variety that might help, if you have some lots that offer more of those kind of uses than others,
Yeah.
If you just, that might help to have some of those more lots be HC, because there's a place for those kind of people. And, you know, versus having them all general commercial, and now they're gonna want a CUP, and maybe they'll pick a lot that you don't want them to pick, since they have to get a CUP anyway, you know?
So just so you understand, you can do outdoor storage in the general commercial district, the GC district. It's a conditional use
Right.
in that district, which means, you know, it's more review, more scrutiny than otherwise. The HC district, outdoor storage is permitted by right. So you can't say no to outdoor storage.
You can't tell me you don't need a fence or
Yeah.
anything.
So to get to your point, Steve, while you might have more or less or the same authority over CUPs under the new county ordinance than you have had, you have no authority if it's zoned HC because it's permitted by right outdoor storage. So,
Yes.
so it's just a matter of, you know, I'm looking at the Dane County fact sheets and those are available. You just type in Dane County zoning fact sheet, you can see GC and the permitted and conditional uses and HC. And, you know, identify, but, you know, it's not as if the general commercial district just allows beauty salons. There's a range of uses you can do there, and you can't have outdoor storage, you know, in that district as well.
I mean, on the north part, where we're gonna call it Natfig Road, those 3 lots that are north of Natfig Road, are you guys okay with, like, can we do those 3 and they have to be GC instead of HC? Maybe the ones south of that road are gonna be bigger lots. Can we designate that where they have to be GC, or, you know what I'm saying here?
Mm-hmm.
You're when you prepare your preliminary plat and have the lots a little bit more certain, you'll then at the same time identify which zoning is appropriate for which lot, and you would apply for rezoning at this, probably at the same time you'd apply for preliminary plat approval. And so at that time you would say, and you'd probably do it in groups, you wouldn't just like a checkerboard pattern, this one's HC, this one is GC, this one's HC. You'd kind of pick areas where you'd have 4 or 5 that would be HC, that would be close to on each other, and 4 or 5, or you know, that would be GC close to each other. But they would follow the boundaries of lots that you actually have platted.
So basically what you're saying then is like the southeast part, you'd rather see that be GC.
Yeah.
And then possibly maybe these 3, because Natfig Road's gonna.
Because it's, you know, I guess
You
it's
know.
a through road. Yeah. I mean, the lots that I think are, you know, are the ones that are visible from the Highway 12 are important. So down here, if this ends up being its own lot, you know, I would say this lot is GC, top priority, the ones along with frontage along
Yes.
12.
Mhm.
And then I think it becomes maybe a little bit grayer and,
Okay.
you know, opportunity for negotiation on some of the other ones. That's my opinion. Not that I'm not on the town board or the planning commission.
Kim, do you have a sheet of what general commercial you
Yeah, you
didn't
can-
want again? I know
You
there
can
was,
find that on Access Dane, but I can get them for you too, but actually, if you just Google Dane County zoning district fact sheets, it'll come up.
It comes right up.
It does. And all the different, there's links for all the different zoning
because I
districts.
know there was some on there that last time when we talked
Yeah.
about, there was like 2 or 3 that,
Yeah. You're
you
never
know,
gonna
that you
want.
definitely didn't want on.
Yeah, I mean, contractor, landscaping, building, trade operations, permitted uses in both districts, and that at least half of what you're gonna be marketing to are gonna fit under that category.
Yeah, there's permitted uses and conditional uses, and the
Yeah, the key-
conditional ones are the ones that they need more permission for.
Right. And the big difference, in my opinion, is outdoor storage.
Yeah.
Outdoor storage conditional in GC, outdoor storage permitted in the HC.
If you can't find those, I'll send you a link tomorrow.
I should be able to.
Yeah.
I don't navigate very well.
But there are certain, you know, I'm just looking at the HC permitted use list, Among the permitted uses, adult bookstores. So those are that's probably one that you and the town will be quick to agree that we're not going to have here. So even for those areas that are HC, there's going to be some that are just going to be easy to peel off the list and make the AC a little bit less intense or objectionable. Because you can do a lot in the HC district.
Is there a gas station, I was just wondering, I mean, is that something that you guys want to see down there? Like a quick trip, or I'm just asking, that's, okay. That's, I mean, but they have to still.
Problem with it would be on 12 and 18 when you're going east, how are you going to get over to it?
Yeah.
What's the state going to make you build to allow that
Okay.
traffic to
But
cross?
they'll still have to come to you to get their permit to build it, right? So you have to essentially approve what someone wants to do in there, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Just remember
so you
that-
can say no at that point then.
Remember they like right turns.
Yeah, it just depends on permitted or conditional use. My guess is that the lack of sanitary sewer and water service is going to make it difficult for something like that to want to be here.
Okay.
So it might, regardless of what zoning is, it just might take care of itself that way.
They might be adding that.
But those are things that you can do in these zoning districts for sure.
Whatever goes in there, you can make work with it. In my opinion, it'll be fine.
Well, I live
We don't
right,
need-
we live just down the road. I don't want it to get ugly either, so, that's why I'm just asking about this stuff. I want to see it stay, nice businesses too here, so.
That's something you can do it right at the head. When it comes to your marketing, who you talk to.
Get Richie's to build up there.
Get what?
Richie's.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Case I age.
Any other discussion?
One quick question, lots 1, 2, and 3, we talked about culverts or driveway access on North Star. On those lots, they're long and narrow, is there any restriction to them having 2 driveway entrances on those lots? One to pull in, one to come out?
Yeah, I think the spacing again would apply that 150 feet. So if they're 400 feet,
400 feet with the lots and stuff, so there's no
Especially for
issue with
semis.
that. Exactly, yep. I saw those and I was thinking my semi would have a tough time bouncing around the building on that one.
Yeah.
And the septic, so.
What if we allow them to come in the middle of them and then split between the 2 lots?
You could, but I was just thinking like a semi, you come in one and
That's a good
loop down
idea.
and pull out the other
Shared
one.
driveway on that.
Yeah, then
But-
they'd be, 1 and 2 would be sharing an
Oh, I
open.
got you. Yep.
So they come in wherever on there,
Yep.
Cut it down from
150
6 down to
plus
5.
feet. but
I was just wondering if there's any restriction on the driveway accesses.
I know what you're saying, because people,
Just a thought.
good thought, actually.
yeah, those seem long enough to allow 2 driveways for sure.
Mhm. But maybe we could limit them if we put them.
Yep.
Like Tom's saying, if we put them, they gotta be between lot 2 and 3 and 1 and 2.
Yeah, where you might have one driveway that's all your own and one you share with the next
Yeah.
door neighbor.
Anything else? Any questions?
I just, for Kim, we're gonna meet tomorrow with Brian Arcan and, Chris Cation. We're gonna try to hammer out these lots, so I should be able to get it back to you fairly quick.
So then, I mean, you'll be next, March 26th would be the next meeting here.
Okay.
So,
Okay, I shouldn't have any trouble getting it to you fairly quick.
yeah.
You change lots.
Yeah, we're gonna meet tomorrow on changing a couple, I guess. I mean, the only thing we're gonna change here, like, you guys kind of set on the south side, and you know, and maybe then we do something on that north side, because we can, you know, then can be bigger, I guess.
No,
So,
he can do pretty much whatever he wants. And how big the lots are. Am I wrong in saying that?
Yeah. I think.
So are we trying to, we don't have to have a motion for this thing tonight, just a review? Thanks. Darn, I want to invoke the plant schedule here as a motion, making sure he lives by it. I like it.
I do like everything
So
about this.
you've applied for zoning, right? Are you gonna hold that off?
they're gonna try to get it into it. So
Because
the
on
change.
Mark's side, I mean, you can do zoning and your preliminary plat at the same time. You don't have to do zoning ahead of the preliminary plat. And so you might want to just hold off on the zoning, because you're still on the comprehensive development plan. You got some work to do before you're gonna be ready for your preliminary, but you can do those at the same time. And you might want to hold off just because in the process of developing that preliminary plat, you might get different ideas about zoning. Especially when you're thinking about some lots one and some lots another way.
Which one's GC, which one's HC, or
Yeah, because then the boundaries of that, between the GC and the HC follow lot lines. But if you don't have lot lines because you don't have your preliminary plat cooked enough, then you can't guess where that boundary is gonna be.
yeah.
I think what I'll do is I'll just have Chris and Brian or Ken, you know, when it comes to that, I'll have them call you.
That's fine.
If that's okay.
We can get on a call, and we can get on a call with county staff too, because they're, you know,
Okay.
we arrange a Zoom or something with them.
Okay.
I think it makes sense to have everyone in the room, so to speak.
And I did talk to Majid, it's been 3 months or so, and he kind of said he would like to see general commercial on the smaller lots. That's what he wants.
Yeah. So maybe, again, when you just digest this information, and Chris, you meet with Chris and Brian, obviously you can be involved, but some sort of meeting between them and Majid and me at least, to chat
Okay.
would be great, and get others
Okay.
in the room too.
I just don't want to see you have to do things twice.
No.
You know, like,
I don't
do
know.
the zoning once and then you get
Once is
deeper into
enough.
your plat and you're like, oh darn it.
Right.
No reason to do anything. No reason to do it. And then so just from my understanding, once we didn't want to give us a trip, the timer to say you got 90, how many days.
Once you give us the preliminary plat,
preliminary plat.
then we got 90 days for that, I think, and 60
Yeah.
days for the final, right?
That's right.
Okay.
I'm getting good at this. We do enough of them.
And that's part of the reason we have this comprehensive development plan step out ahead of it, so we can work through issues, these kind of broader issues first, and hopefully get to a point where it's not hard to do it all in 90 days.
Yeah.
So we'll come back here in a month with your comprehensive development plan more solid, and then assuming that that's accepted, then you can start working on your preliminary in zoning.
Well, I'm sure, I'll just make sure those guys are working with Mark. So, because he.
Yeah, and we don't want to forget Nick here
Yeah.
just because he's in the second row.
But I mean, if you guys on board here, so then
Yeah.
when we do come back, there's no issues at that point.
Really appreciate that, Don, being in on the front end versus being in at the 11th hour is
Yeah.
Yeah.
a lot more satisfying and
Oh my
helpful.
God.
Yeah.
We tried to get everything in that we had. I thought they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, everything's
You
great.
you did the best job I've ever seen.
No, everything's great.
I really appreciate how much work you put into all this. It's so good to have this stuff up front and not find out surprises partway through.
Yeah.
For everybody.
Well, thank you, guys.
All right, is there a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Troy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Steve for adjournment. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you, Ben.
See.
Oh, you have to put the cart before the